How much for all five? The words left Cole Whitaker's mouth before his mind could catch them. The dusty street of Briar Hollow went silent, like even the wind had stopped to listen. A tall man in a black derby hat had a little girl by the arm, tugging her toward a stiff woman who had already paid for one child and clearly didn't want the rest. Behind them stood four more children, barefoot, dirty, terrified. The oldest boy's lip was split, blood drying at the corner of his mouth. He stood in front of the others like a shield, thin shoulders squared, fists clenched. A girl with copper braids held a toddler on her hip. The smallest one clung to her dress, silent tears carving pale trails down a face caked in dust. The man in the hat turned slowly. "Excuse me, you heard me," Cole said, stepping forward. His boots crunched against gravel. "All five, what's your price?" The man released the little girl's arm the way someone drops a broken tool. She stumbled back, and the older boy caught her fast, pulling her behind him. "Edgar Doyle," the man said smoothly, brushing dirt from his sleeve. "County placement officer, these children are wards of the county being placed in respectable homes." "Respectable?" Cole's eyes flicked to the boy's lip. "That what you call this?" The woman in the shawl cleared her throat. "Mr. Doyle, I've paid for the red-haired one. I don't have time for she ain't going," the boy snapped. Doyle's smile thinned. "Isaac, we've discussed this. You ain't splitting us." Cole stepped closer. "I asked you a question." Doyle studied him now, the worn jacket, the old revolver at his hip, the scar along his jaw. "You married Mr. Whitaker. You got a wife, Mr. Whitaker." "No," Doyle's brow lifted. "A single man wanting five children, that'll raise questions." "Let it." Cole folded his arms. "How much?" The woman huffed and walked away, muttering about foolish men and wasted coin. The braided girl watched her go, face empty, not sad, not hopeful, just used to it. Doyle named a number. It hit Cole like a punch. It was near everything he'd saved in 8 years: cattle drives, winter trapping, sleeping under open sky while frost bit through his bones. He didn't flinch. "I'll have it in an hour," Doyle laughed under his breath. "You don't strike me as that wealthy. You don't strike me as that patient." A tense pause, then Doyle shrugged. 1 hour or they're shipped east by sundown. Cole turned to leave. A small hand grabbed his sleeve. He looked down. The tiniest girl, maybe 6, clutched a rag doll missing one button eye. Her brown eyes shimmered like they were holding back a flood. "Mister, you coming back?" He crouched, knees creaking. "What's your name?" "Lily." He nodded at the doll. "And her?" "Charlotte. Mama made her." His throat tightened. "Well, Lily, tell Charlotte I'll be back before she can count to 20. She can only count to 10. Then I'll be back before 10. The older boy's voice came cold and steady. "You ain't coming back." Cole met his gaze. There was no anger in it, just experience, just a boy who'd been disappointed too many times to pretend anymore. 1 hour, Cole said quietly. He mounted his horse and rode hard. Wind tore at his coat as the ranch came into view. He burst into the barn, pried up loose boards, and pulled out the dented tin buried beneath years of dust. His hands shook as he counted. 8 years of sweat. 8 years of loneliness. 8 years of telling himself he didn't deserve more. 5 children, no wife, no help, winter 6 weeks away. He closed his eyes and saw another boy, years ago, battlefield smoke, mud. A hand reaching for him while orders were shouted to retreat. He had turned away then, he wouldn't do it again. Cole shoved the money into a leather pouch and rode back. Doyle was waiting. He counted twice, then again. "Sign here," Doyle said, sliding papers forward. "Legal transfer. If you fail, the county reclaims them." Cole signed. Doyle leaned closer, voice low. "Men are already asking questions. Make sure those questions don't land on me." "Is that a threat?" "It's advice." "You ain't my friend." Doyle smiled thinly. "No, I ain't." He walked away, but not before casting one last lingering look at Isaac. It made something cold settle in Cole's gut. This wasn't over. He turned to the children. "I signed," he said. "You're coming home with me, all of you." No one moved. "Where?" Isaac asked. "My ranch, 10 miles west." "And then you eat. You sleep, you wake up still there, next day too. And when you get tired of us," Cole's jaw tightened, "I just spent every dollar I had on you. If I wanted an easy life, I'd have kept the money." Something flickered in Isaac's eyes. Not trust, but a crack. The braided girl stepped forward, adjusting the silent toddler on her hip. "I'm Clara, this is Hope, she don't talk anymore." Cole softened his voice. "That's all right." The thin boy behind them trembled, staring at the dirt. "What's your name, son?" "Ben," Clara answered. "He stutters." "I got chickens," Cole said lightly. "Meanest birds alive." "Maybe they'll listen to you better than me." Ben blinked. Lily tugged his sleeve again. "Charlotte wants to see the chickens. Then let's not keep her waiting." One by one they climbed into the wagon, Isaac last, arms crossed, watching. Always watching, as they rolled out of town, Lily whispered to her doll. Clara hummed softly to Hope. Ben kept glancing at Cole like he was trying to solve a riddle, and Isaac, he watched the road behind them. Cole felt the weight of 5 fragile lives settling onto his shoulders. Winter was coming, the county wasn't done, and somewhere in town, a powerful man had just lost something he thought already belonged to him. And he wasn't the kind of man who lost quietly. If you're feeling this story already, don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from, because what happens next will change everything. The ride home was quieter than any funeral Cole had ever attended. The wagon wheels creaked. The wind whispered across the open fields. No one spoke for the first mile. Lily sat closest to him, Charlotte tucked tight against her chest. She kept glancing up at him like she was checking if he was still real. Ben sat beside her, knees pulled in, shoulders hunched, fingers twitching against his trousers. Clara held Hope on her hip, swaying gently with each bump in the road, humming under her breath. Isaac stayed in the back, arms crossed, eyes sharp, watching the horizon behind them like trouble might rise straight out of the dust. Cole cleared his throat. "You all hungry?" "Yes," Lily answered immediately. Isaac shot her a look, but she only hugged her doll tighter. "What do you like to eat?" Cole asked. Clara hesitated. "Mama used to make biscuits with honey." Cole scratched the back of his neck. "Well, I ain't much of a cook." "How bad?" Isaac asked flatly. "Last time I made biscuits, my horse refused 'em." For half a second silence. Then Lily let out a tiny giggle. It slipped out of her like it surprised her. Like laughter had forgotten the way, Ben's lips twitched. Clara's mouth curved just a little. Isaac looked away, but Cole saw the corner of his mouth fight it. The ranch appeared over the hill as the sun began sinking into gold and copper streaks. It wasn't much, crooked roof, leaning shutters, smoke drifting thin from the chimney. Isaac stared. That's it, it's small." "Sure is," Clara shifted Hope. "It's better than outside." Cole climbed down first. He reached up to help them. Isaac jumped down on his own. Clara handed Hope carefully into Cole's arms. She weighed almost nothing, too light. Hope didn't look at him, didn't react, just pressed her face against Clara's shoulder again the moment he handed her back. Inside was one room, a small loft above, a wooden table, 4 chairs, and a cast-iron stove. "4 chairs," Clara said quietly. "I'll build more," Cole answered. "You in a hurry?" That almost smile flickered again. He set water to boil and laid out what he had: dried beef, potatoes, a little cornmeal. Not enough. He saw Isaac notice. They ate in near silence, and what he saw nearly broke him. Ben curled around his bowl, eating fast, one arm guarding it like someone might snatch it away. Lily fed Charlotte a spoonful first. She held it to the doll's stitched mouth, nodded as if listening to a reply, then ate her own bite. Isaac didn't touch his food until he confirmed every plate had something on it. Clara didn't eat at all. She focused on Hope. "Come on, little bird," she whispered. "Just one bite." Hope turned her face away. "She ain't eaten much," Clara murmured without looking up. "What works?" Cole asked. Clara blinked. What did your mama do?" Clara swallowed hard. "She sang." "Then sing." "Here now." Clara looked startled. Cole shrugged gently. "Ain't nobody here but us." The word hung there, us family. Clara's voice trembled as she began an old hymn, soft, fragile, almost breaking. Hope's head shifted. Clara lifted the spoon again, one bite, then another. Then Hope's tiny hand reached up and rested against Clara's cheek. Clara's voice cracked completely. She kept singing anyway. Cole turned to the stove, blinking fast. He told himself it was just smoke. After dinner, Lily tugged his sleeve again. "Charlotte says thank you," Cole crouched. "Tell Charlotte she's welcome. She says the cornbread's a little burnt." A laugh burst out of him before he could stop it. Loud, real, it startled even him. "Well, tell her I'll try harder. She says she'll believe it when she sees it." "Smart doll." Lily's smile glowed like sunrise, then her face turned serious. "Mister, are you gonna hit us?" The room froze. Cole felt something tear inside his chest. "No," she studied him carefully. "The last place did." Ben flinched at that. Cole's jaw tightened so hard it hurt. "Nobody hits anybody here, ever." Isaac's eyes searched his face. Looking for the lie, Cole held steady. Clara climbed to the loft first with Hope. Ben followed, Lily last, whispering to Charlotte about chickens. Isaac lingered at the ladder. If you hurt them, he said quietly, I don't care how big you are, I'll make you sorry. Cole met his gaze. I'd expect you to. A pause. Then Isaac climbed up. Later, Cole sat by the dying fire. Above him, soft whispers. Lily talking to Charlotte. Ben's breathing uneven. Clara humming again. Isaac shifting, restless, and then a sound, small. Barely there, from Hope, not a word but something. A little breath of voice pushing against silence. Clara stopped humming. Everything went still. Then Clara whispered, It's okay, little bird, I'm here. And she started humming again. Cole leaned back against the wall, staring at the ceiling. 5 children breathing above him. 5. He had nothing left in his savings. Winter was coming fast, and Doyle's eyes when he left, they hadn't been finished. This was only the beginning. Cole didn't sleep much that night. Every creak of the house made him sit up. Every shift from the loft made his hand drift toward the rifle leaning beside the stove. He kept expecting silence, empty boards. 5 sets of footprints heading back toward town. But when dawn finally crept through the crooked shutters, he heard it, Lily whispering to Charlotte, Ben coughing softly, Clara humming. Isaac already awake, moving careful and quiet like a sentry. They were still there. A strange warmth spread through Cole's chest, not relief exactly, something softer, something almost dangerous. Morning came sharp and cold. Up, Isaac said to the others before Cole even stood. We ain't freeloaders, Cole almost smiled. He handed Isaac an axe and pointed to the woodpile. Winter's coming. Isaac took the axe without a word. He swung hard, too hard. Each strike landed like he was punishing the wood for something it didn't do. You don't gotta kill it, Cole said lightly. It's already dead. Isaac didn't answer, but he didn't swing quite as hard next time. They worked side by side for an hour, no talking, just the rhythm of steel and wood, sweat despite the chill, breath turning to fog. When they stopped, Isaac's palms were raw. Let me see, they're fine, they're bleeding. Isaac clenched his fists. Cole went inside and returned with salve and cloth. He set them down beside him and walked away like it didn't matter. 5 minutes later, he heard the tin open. That afternoon, Ben stood beside the chicken coop. Mr. Whitaker, he whispered. Cole turned slowly so he wouldn't startle him. Yeah, son, that one, Ben pointed. She's limping. Cole squinted. He'd missed it entirely. Ben hadn't. You want to catch her? Ben nodded. He moved slow, crouched low, hands open. The speckled hen didn't run. She let him lift her like she trusted him. Cole knelt and found the thorn buried in her foot. Hold steady, Ben did. When the thorn came free, the hen squawked once but didn't fight. She stayed calm in Ben's arms. You got a gift, Cole said softly. Ben's ears turned red. He set the hen down gently. She walked off, barely limping. For the first time, Ben stood straighter. Clara watched from the doorway, eyes always measuring. That evening, she cornered Cole at the table. Lily cries at night, she said quietly. I know. She dreams about Mama, Cole nodded. Ben shakes worse when it's dark. The last place they locked him in a cellar, Cole's jaw tightened. In hope, Clara's voice almost broke. She used to be the loudest one, Papa called her Thunder. Now she don't even whisper. Cole leaned forward. What do you think she needs? Clara blinked. What? You know her better than anyone. Clara stared at the table. Safe, she finally whispered. She's waiting to feel safe. The word hung heavy. Are we? Clara asked. Cole didn't lie. I don't know what's coming, he said honestly. But I swear to you, whatever comes, we face it together. Clara studied him for a long moment. Okay, she said softly. That night, Lily burst into laughter when Biscuit, the skinny stray dog Ben had convinced Cole to let stay, chased his own tail and crashed into the water bucket, water everywhere. Isaac tried to stay serious. He failed, a snort escaped him, then another. Then suddenly Lily was laughing, Ben was laughing, even Clara let out a startled ha-ha-ha she tried to hide behind her hand. Hope flinched at first, then she watched. Biscuit stumbled again, yelping in confusion. And from Hope, a tiny breathy sound, not a word but close. Clara gasped. Hope's lips twitched, just a flicker, but it was there. Cole had to turn away so they wouldn't see the way his eyes filled. For a moment the house felt full, warm, alive, then a knock, hard, sharp. Isaac was on his feet instantly, rifle in hand. Cole moved to the door slowly. When he opened it, Edgar Doyle stood there, hat tipped low, smile thin. Evening, Whitaker. Cole didn't step aside. What do you want? Doyle glanced past him, just checking on county property. They ain't property, Doyle's smile twitched. That's so funny thing, Judge Halbrook didn't authorize the sale. Cole felt the air leave his lungs. What are you talking about? Judge was out of town, now he's back and he's displeased. Isaac's grip tightened on the rifle. Doyle leaned closer, voice soft and poisonous. You got 3 days, Whitaker. Judge wants the oldest boy. The room went still. Isaac's breath stopped. For labor, Doyle continued casually. The coal mine needs small shoulders. No, Clara breathed. Isaac stepped forward. I'll go. No, Cole snapped. If I go, he leaves them alone. Cole turned on him. Nobody's going anywhere. Doyle adjusted his cuffs. 3 days after that, the law takes its course. He turned and walked off into the dark like he owned it. The door shut. Silence crashed down. Lily clung to Charlotte so tight the doll's stitching strained. Ben's hands trembled violently. Clara held hope like she might disappear. Isaac stood rigid. I'll go, he said again, voice breaking this time. Long as they're safe. Cole grabbed his shoulders. I left someone behind once, he said low and fierce. I ain't doing it again, not you, not any of you. Isaac's eyes glassed over. You promise, I promise. And this time Isaac believed him. Up in the loft later, Lily whispered, Are we gonna lose him? Clara answered softly, though her voice shook. Not if he keeps fighting. Down below, Cole sat by the fire staring at the door. 3 days, a judge who owned half the county, no money left, no power, just a crooked house, 5 fragile hearts. And a promise he would die before he broke. Cole didn't wait for morning. He saddled the horse before the sun had fully risen, frost still clinging to the grass like silver dust. Isaac stood in the yard, arms folded, jaw tight. You ain't going alone, Isaac said. Yes, I am. You don't even know what you're walking into. Cole stepped closer. That's exactly why you're staying here. Isaac hated it. Cole could see it burning in him, the need to fight, to protect, to sacrifice himself if that's what it took. You're not the one who fixes this, Cole said firmly. You're the reason I fix it. Isaac swallowed hard but didn't argue again. Clara stepped forward quietly. Be careful. Ben stood behind her, biscuit pressed against his legs. Lily ran up last and shoved Charlotte into Cole's hands. For luck. Cole let out a breath that almost sounded like a laugh. Guess I better not lose then. He handed the doll back and rode toward town. Copper Ridge was already buzzing. Word traveled fast. A single man buying 5 children, now a judge demanding one back. People smelled trouble like wolves smelled blood. Cole found Sheriff Dawson leaning against the jailhouse wall, hat tipped low. You hear about the order? Dawson asked without looking up. What order? Dawson sighed and handed him a folded paper. Cole's hands tightened as he read. Petition to revoke custody of Isaac Turner on grounds of improper guardianship and economic instability. Economic instability, Cole muttered bitterly. That's fancy talk for poor. Judge Halbrook's pushing it hard, Dawson said quietly, and when he pushes, most folks don't push back. He wants Isaac in that mine, Dawson didn't deny it. Those tunnels are narrow, the sheriff added grimly. Boys fit where men don't, cheap labor, disposable labor, Cole's stomach twisted. There's a hearing tomorrow, Dawson continued, you show up. Or they'll take the boy by default. And if I lose, Dawson finally looked at him, then I'll have to enforce it. The words hung heavy. Cole nodded once and walked away. He didn't go home right away. He went door to door, the baker. The blacksmith, the schoolteacher, most avoided his eyes. Can't get involved, the baker said quickly. Judge supplies my flour. Prescott, don't forget, the blacksmith muttered. Fear, it clung to the town like smoke. Finally, Miss Alina Price, the schoolteacher, opened her door. I saw those children, she said softly. The little girl with the dolls, she said thank you 3 times for a peppermint. Cole's throat tightened. They're polite, Alina continued. Not wild, not neglected. Then stand up tomorrow, she hesitated, then nodded. I will. It wasn't much, but it was something. When Cole returned home, dusk was settling in. He knew something was wrong the second he saw Isaac standing outside instead of chopping wood. What happened? Isaac's face was pale with fury. He came back, Doyle. Inside, Clara was shaking. Ben sat in the corner, trembling worse than ever. Lily's eyes were red from crying. He said if you don't give Isaac up quietly, Clara whispered, they'll take all of us. Rage roared through Cole like wildfire. Hope whimpered at the sudden shift in the air. Cole knelt in front of her. "It's okay," he murmured softly, even though his blood was boiling. "It's okay." Isaac stepped forward. "I'll go tonight." Before they come, Cole stood so fast his chair tipped over. "No, you think I want to?" Isaac shouted suddenly, voice cracking. "You think I ain't scared, but if they take Clara or Ben or Lily, they won't." "How do you know?" Isaac's voice broke completely now. "How do you know you're enough?" The words hit deep. Cole didn't shout back. He stepped forward slowly and pulled Isaac into him. The boy resisted for half a second, then collapsed. His body shook, not from anger, from terror. Cole held him tight. "I don't know I'm enough," Cole admitted quietly, "but I know I won't stop trying." Isaac's fingers gripped his shirt like he was drowning. From the loft, Lily's tiny voice drifted down. "Charlotte says heroes don't quit." Ben let out a shaky, almost laugh. Guess that's settled." Even Clara gave a weak smile. Cole looked around at them, 5 children looking at him like he was their shield. And suddenly he understood it wasn't about money, it wasn't about the judge, it was about whether he would stand. "Tomorrow," Cole said firmly, "we go to court, all of us." "All of us?" Clara asked. "They need to see what they're trying to break." That night no one slept much. Hope stirred often. Ben whispered to Biscuit. Lily held Charlotte tight. Isaac lay awake staring at the ceiling. And Cole sat by the fire cleaning his revolver, not because he planned to use it, but because it steadied his shaking hands. At some point, tiny footsteps padded down the ladder. Lily. She climbed into his lap without asking. "Are you scared?" she whispered. "Yes," she nodded like that made sense. "Me too." He kissed the top of her head. "But brave ain't about not being scared," he murmured. "It's about standing anyway." Lily leaned against him. Above them, Clara began humming that hymn again. Soft, fragile. Hope shifted, and for the first time a whisper escaped her lips. "Mama," Clara froze. Tears poured down her face as she scooped Hope into her arms. "She said it," Clara sobbed. "She said a word." Cole felt his own breath hitch. One word, one tiny, fragile word, proof that healing was happening, proof that this house, crooked roof and all, was working. Outside, somewhere in the dark, a horse moved along the road. Watching, waiting. And tomorrow, in front of the entire town, Judge Halbrook would try to tear it all apart. Morning came heavy. No one joked, no one laughed. Even Biscuit seemed to sense it, pacing near the door instead of chasing his tail. Clara dressed Hope carefully, brushing her hair slow and gentle. Ben washed his face 3 times like dirt might be used as evidence against them. Lily insisted on tying a scrap of blue ribbon around Charlotte's neck so she looks important. Isaac wore the same shirt. "I ain't pretending to be something I'm not," he muttered. Cole didn't argue. He didn't sleep at all. His eyes were red, jaw tight, but his voice stayed steady. "We walk in together," he said. "We leave together." The courthouse sat at the end of Main Street like it owned the dirt beneath it. 2 stories, tall windows, too grand for a town that small. People gathered outside. Whispers followed them. "That's them, all 5, single man." Isaac's shoulders stiffened. Cole placed a hand on his back, not pushing, just there. Inside, the courtroom smelled like old paper and authority. Judge Halbrook sat high above them, silver hair. Sharp eyes, a man who'd never been told no without punishing someone for it. Doyle stood near the front, smug as ever. Sheriff Dawson lingered by the wall. Cole and the children took a bench together. Lily swung her legs nervously. Ben held Biscuit close. Clara kept one arm wrapped around Hope. Isaac stared straight ahead like he was preparing for battle. The clerk read the petition. Revocation of custody for Isaac Turner due to financial instability, inadequate structure, and moral concern. "Moral concern," Cole repeated under his breath. "Mr. Whittaker," the judge said smoothly, "you are a single man, no wife, no stable income beyond seasonal work, 5 children under your roof. Do you consider that responsible?" Cole stood. "I consider leaving them on that street irresponsible." A murmur rippled through the room. Halbrook's eyes hardened slightly. "You are aware the county has facilities?" "Yes, sir." "I've seen what those facilities do." "And what is that supposed to mean?" Ben flinched at the judge's sharp tone. Cole's voice stayed level. "It means boys come back shaking. It means little girls stop talking." Hope buried her face into Clara's shoulder. Doyle stepped forward. "Your Honor, the eldest boy is physically capable of working in the mine. It would provide structure and income for the county." Isaac's jaw tightened. I ain't a shovel, Isaac snapped suddenly. I ain't county property, gasps. Silence, Halbrook barked. Isaac didn't look away. Cole stepped in front of him slightly, not to hide him, but to stand with him. You want structure, Cole said. He chops wood every morning, helps fix the fence, watches his siblings like a hawk. That's structure, and can you feed them through winter? Halbrook pressed. Cole hesitated. That half second was enough for Doyle to smile. Answer the question. I'll find a way. That is not an answer. It's the only one I got. The judge leaned back, fingers steepled. Miss Clara Turner, he called. Clara stiffened. You are 11. Yes, sir. Do you feel safe in Mr. Whittaker's home? The entire room went still. Clara looked at Cole. He didn't nod, didn't prompt, just waited. Clara swallowed. Yes, sir. And why is that? Her voice trembled, but she kept going. Because he don't yell, he don't hit, he don't split us up. A few people shifted uncomfortably. Halbrook's expression didn't change. Benjamin Turner, Ben froze. Cole crouched beside him. You don't have to. I can, Ben whispered. He stood, clutching biscuit like armor. Does Mr. Whittaker mistreat you? No, sir. Are you properly fed? Ben hesitated. Cole felt his stomach drop. We don't got fancy food, Ben admitted softly, but he eats last. That hit the room differently. Halbrook's pen paused midair, and the youngest, Hope, peeked out from Clara's shoulder. She spoke, Lily blurted suddenly. The room turned toward her. She said Mama last night, Lily continued proudly. She didn't talk before, but she's getting better because it's quiet at our house, not scary. Clara's eyes filled again. Isaac stood straighter. Halbrook studied them all. For a moment, just a moment, something uncertain flickered behind his eyes. Doyle leaned close to the judge, whispering urgently. Halbrook cleared his throat. This court will recess for 10 minutes. The gavel struck. People erupted into low chatter. Isaac exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for hours. Did we lose? Lily whispered. Not yet, Cole said. Sheriff Dawson stepped closer. You rattled him, the sheriff muttered quietly. Is that enough? Dawson didn't answer. Across the room, Doyle shot Cole a look that promised this wasn't finished. Not even close. Isaac nudged Cole's shoulder. You didn't kneel. Cole glanced down at him. Wasn't planning to. Through the tall courthouse windows, clouds rolled in, storm coming. Whether it was weather or war, no one could tell yet. And when that judge walks back in with his ruling, everything changes. The 10 minutes felt like 10 years. The courtroom buzzed with whispers, boots scraping against wooden floors, people pretending not to stare at the 5 children who sat together like a fragile wall. Isaac kept his chin high. Clara whispered something soft into Hope's hair. Ben stroked Biscuit's back in slow, nervous motions. Lily leaned against Cole's arm. Charlotte pressed tight to her chest. Cole didn't move, didn't blink. Didn't breathe fully. The side door opened. Judge Halbrook stepped back in. The room snapped to silence. He sat, adjusted his cuffs, looked down at the papers in front of him like they were the most important thing in the world. Then he looked at Cole. Mr. Whittaker, he began, voice calm and controlled. This court recognizes the emotional arguments presented. Emotional, like love was weakness. However, Halbrook continued, the law is not built on emotion. Doyle's lips curved faintly. Cole's fingers tightened around the edge of the bench. Custody of Isaac Turner will be temporarily transferred to county supervision pending economic review. The words hit like a gunshot. Lily gasped. Ben's hand froze in Biscuit's fur. Clara went white. Isaac didn't move, didn't blink. Effective immediately, the judge added. No, the word ripped out of Cole before he could stop it. You will show respect in my courtroom, Halbrook snapped. You're sending him to that mine. I am sending him to structured labor under county oversight. That mine buries boys, Halbrook's eyes flashed. Sheriff Dawson shifted uneasily near the wall. Isaac slowly stood. It's okay, he said quietly. It wasn't brave, it was broken. Clara grabbed his sleeve. No, it's okay, Isaac repeated, but his voice shook now. I told you I'd go. Cole stood so fast the bench scraped loud against the floor. You ain't taking him. That is not your decision anymore, the judge replied coldly. Doyle stepped forward, already reaching for Isaac's arm. And that's when it happened. Hope let out a scream, not a whimper, not a breath. A scream so sharp and terrified it cut through the courtroom like glass. No, the word exploded out of her, clear, loud, alive. The entire room froze. Clara dropped to her knees, clutching Hope as the little girl trembled violently. No, take Isaac. Her tiny fists pounded against Clara's shoulder, tears streamed down her face, her voice cracked again and again. The courtroom silent. Stunned, 5 months of silence shattered in one desperate plea. Cole felt something break open in his chest. Lily burst into tears. Ben started sobbing openly. Isaac stood there, eyes wide, staring at his little sister like he'd just witnessed a miracle. Judge Halbrook didn't speak. Doyle hesitated, hand still half-reached. Hope struggled free from Clara's arms and ran straight toward Isaac. She wrapped both arms around his waist and held on like she was anchoring him to the earth. "No take," she screamed again, voice raw. Clara was crying openly now. She's talking." People in the gallery shifted. Someone sniffled. Sheriff Dawson stepped forward. "Your Honor," he said carefully, voice carrying in the stunned quiet, "with all due respect, I've seen children pulled from homes before." Halbrook didn't look at him. "And I've never seen one find her voice trying to stop it." That landed heavy. Halbrook's jaw tightened. Doyle leaned in again, whispering urgently, but the judge raised a hand to silence him. Hope's sobs softened into hiccups, but she refused to let go of Isaac. Isaac's arms finally moved. He wrapped them around her, and that was it. The image, the truth, no speech, no argument, just a terrified little girl who had been silent for months, finding her voice to protect her brother. Halbrook cleared his throat. "This court," he stopped. For the first time since Cole met him, the judge didn't look certain, he looked calculating. "This court will amend its decision." Doyle stiffened. "Your Honor." Silence. Halbrook's gaze swept the room. "The emotional welfare of minors is a legal factor." Emotional welfare, now it mattered. "Custody will remain with Mr. Whittaker pending a full economic audit. Any attempt to remove the child prior to that audit is suspended." Gasps. Clara collapsed back onto the bench, crying. Ben let out a shaky laugh, sob that didn't make sense but felt right. Lily squeezed Charlotte so tight the doll nearly popped. Isaac buried his face into Hope's hair. Cole just stood there. He couldn't move, couldn't speak. He'd been ready to fight with fists, with words, with everything he had. And it wasn't him that won that moment. It was a 4-year-old girl who found her voice. Halbrook struck the gavel. "This hearing is adjourned." The room erupted, some in support, some in anger. Doyle's face had gone pale beneath his smug composure. As he passed Cole, he murmured low enough for only him to hear, "This ain't finished." Cole's voice was ice. It never was. Outside, the storm had finally broken. Rain poured down hard, cold, wild. The children ran through it, laughing and crying all at once, Hope still clinging to Isaac. "Say it again," Lily begged through happy tears. Hope sniffled, cheeks red. "Isaac," clear, strong. Clara dropped to her knees in the mud, laughing and weeping at the same time. Ben lifted Biscuit into the rain like they'd just won a war. Isaac looked at Cole. "You didn't kneel," he said again. Cole shook his head slowly. "No," he whispered, but as thunder rolled overhead, Cole knew something deeper. The judge had bent, not broken. Doyle hadn't lost. He'd adjusted, and men like that. They didn't forgive humiliation. The storm might have washed the street clean, but trouble was already gathering again. The rain followed them home, not the violent kind from town. This one was softer, steady, like the sky itself was thinking. Inside the crooked little house, everything felt different. Hope talked, not full sentences, not steady, but words, small ones, fragile ones. Clara, Isaac, dog. Every time she said one, Lily clapped like it was a miracle. Ben laughed through sniffles. Clara kept pressing her hand to her mouth like she couldn't believe it was real. Isaac didn't say much. He just stayed close to Hope, like if he moved too far away she might go silent again. Cole stood near the stove, pretending to busy himself with the fire. He wasn't fooling anyone. His hands were shaking. Clara walked over quietly. "You did it," she said softly. "No," Cole replied. "She did." Clara glanced toward Hope, who was currently trying to say Biscuit and ending up with Biss. A tiny grin tugged at Clara's lips, then it faded. "He won't stop," she whispered. Cole didn't need to ask who. "I know." That night they ate what little stew remained. Ben told the story of Hope's scream 3 times, each version more dramatic than the last. Lily reenacted it with Charlotte. Even Isaac cracked a faint smile. Hope kept repeating, "No take," over and over, like she was making sure the world understood. Later, when the children climbed to the loft, Cole stayed at the table staring at the dwindling supplies. Flour nearly gone, woodpiles shrinking, no savings left. The judge's words echoed, economic audit, that wasn't mercy, that was a clock. A quiet knock came at the door. Cole's hand moved to his revolver automatically. Easy came a familiar voice. Sheriff Dawson stepped inside, rain dripping from his hat. You look like hell, Dawson muttered. Feel worse. Dawson removed his hat slowly. You embarrassed him today. That wasn't the goal, doesn't matter. You did, Cole leaned back in the chair. What's coming? Dawson exhaled. Audit means inspectors. Inspectors mean paperwork. They'll look for any excuse, short supplies, unsafe structure. Lack of female guardian. Clara's words from earlier echoed in his mind. No female presence. Dawson shifted awkwardly, and the sheriff added carefully, Prescott owns most of the mines and most of the banks. Cole's jaw tightened. So he'll try to starve us out. Wouldn't put it past him. From above, Lily's laughter drifted down. Hope echoed it, two giggles overlapping. Dawson glanced up toward the loft. They're different already, he said quietly. Cole swallowed. Yeah, Dawson hesitated. There is one thing, Cole looked up. Prescott can't touch you directly for now, but if something were to happen to that ranch, say a claim dispute, or taxes owed, or livestock lost, Cole stood slowly. You're saying he'll burn me out. I'm saying, Dawson replied carefully, men like him don't lose, they retaliate. The fire popped loudly in the stove, silence stretched. Why are you telling me this? Cole asked. Dawson's jaw flexed. Because I watched that little girl find her voice today, and I ain't sleeping right if I pretend I didn't. Cole nodded once. Thank you. Dawson left without another word. Cole bolted the door tighter than usual. He checked the windows twice. Outside, the rain slowed, the wind shifted, and somewhere far off a horse moved along the ridge, watching. The next morning came too quiet, no birds, no breeze. Cole stepped outside and froze. The fence line on the east pasture was torn down. 3 cattle gone, hoofprints leading away, deliberate, not wolves, not accident. Isaac stepped up beside him. Wasn't like that last night. No, Isaac followed the hoofprints with his eyes. They're trying to make you look careless. Cole nodded slowly, or desperate. Clara appeared in the doorway behind them, hope clinging to her hand. What happened? Cole forced his voice steady. Nothing we can't fix. But his stomach twisted. Livestock was income, income was stability, stability was custody, and someone had just taken a chunk of it. Isaac looked up at him. You think it's him? Cole didn't answer. He didn't need to. Behind them, Hope squeezed Isaac's fingers. Stay, she said softly. Isaac swallowed hard. I'm not going anywhere. Cole stared at the broken fence. This wasn't over. The courtroom had only been the first battle. Now the war would be quieter, meaner, calculated, and Prescott wouldn't use judges this time. He'd use hunger, fear, pressure. Cole turned toward the barn. Get dressed, he called over his shoulder. We're riding, Isaac's eyes sharpened. Where? Cole mounted up slowly, to find out who thinks they can scare my family. And somewhere in town, a powerful man smiled, thinking the game had just begun. The tracks led east, 3 horses, shod, not ranch hands. Not rustlers either, too clean, too deliberate. Isaac rode beside Cole, jaw tight, eyes scanning the horizon. He didn't ask questions, he didn't need to, they both knew. Half a mile out, they found the cattle, not stolen, not slaughtered. Just driven into a ravine and left tangled in brush, alive but spooked. A message. Cole slid off his horse slowly. They wanted you chasing, Isaac muttered. Yeah, and while you're out here, Cole's stomach dropped. They both turned at the same time. Smoke, thin, rising from the direction of the ranch. Isaac didn't wait. He spurred his horse hard, riding like the devil himself was chasing him. Cole followed. By the time they reached the house, Clara and Ben were outside with buckets. Lily stood crying near the well. Hope clung to her dress. The barn roof smoldered, not fully aflame, just enough. Cole jumped down and grabbed a bucket. Where's the fire started? Hayloft, Ben shouted, voice shaking. They worked fast. Water, mud, blankets. Isaac climbed up without thinking, stomping embers with his boots. Cole hauled him down once the smoke thickened. After 15 brutal minutes, the fire was out, damage done but contained. Clara's face was streaked with soot and tears. Someone rode off, she whispered. I saw him, didn't see his face. Cole didn't ask if she knew who it was. They all knew. Hope's voice trembled. Bad man. Cole knelt in front of her. Yes, he said softly, but we're still here. Isaac looked at the blackened boards. They want you broke before winter, Cole nodded. They want me to fail the audit. Ben stepped forward, fists clenched. Then we don't fail. Cole looked at him. The boy who once trembled at raised voices now stood firm. We rebuild, Ben continued. We fix fence, we count cows. We show them, Clara wiped her face. We're not helpless. Lily hugged Charlotte tight. They can't scare us, she declared fiercely. Hope squeezed Isaac's hand. Stay, she repeated. Isaac swallowed. I'm staying. Cole stood slowly. He looked at the barn, the fence, the smoke still drifting into the sky. He'd lived alone for years. If someone had burned his barn back then, he might have packed up and moved on. But now there were 5 pairs of eyes watching him. Learning from him, becoming because of him, he turned to Isaac. Help me measure the beams. Isaac nodded instantly. Clara gathered tools. Ben led Biscuit to herd the cattle back. Lily fetched water without being asked. Hope followed Clara, repeating softly, fix it, fix it. They worked until their hands blistered, until the sun dipped low, until the barn looked wounded but standing. As dusk fell, Cole saw a rider on the ridge again. Just a silhouette against the fading light. Watching, Isaac saw it too. He wants you scared, Cole kept hammering. I am, Isaac blinked, but I ain't stopping. The silhouette lingered a moment longer. Then turned and disappeared into the trees. That night, exhaustion hit hard. The children collapsed into sleep quickly. Even Isaac drifted off without his usual watchful tension. Hope whispered one last word before sleep claimed her. Safe, Cole sat by the fire staring into the flames. Prescott wanted pressure, fear, weakness, but he'd miscalculated something. This wasn't one man anymore, it was a family, and families, they didn't fracture easy. Still, winter was creeping closer. Food was thin, money gone, enemies patient. Cole leaned back in the chair, eyes on the door. If you're going to come, he murmured under his breath, you better come ready. Because the next move wouldn't be smoke. It wouldn't be cattle, it would be something sharper. And Cole could feel it, the real test hadn't even started yet. Winter arrived early, not gently, not politely. It came in the night with a biting wind that rattled the shutters and pressed frost into the cracks of the crooked house. Cole woke before dawn to silence. The kind of silence snow brings, heavy waiting. He stepped outside and stopped. The ranch was buried in white, fence lines half swallowed, tracks erased, beautiful, dangerous. Behind him the door creaked. Isaac stepped out, breath fogging in the cold. We're short on feed, he said quietly. Cole nodded. They both knew it. The fire in the barn had cost them hay. The stolen cattle stunt had cost them time. And snow meant work slowed, supplies stretched thin. Inside, Clara was already up, stirring thin porridge in a pot. Ben chopped kindling with careful swings. Lily was trying to teach Hope how to say snow. SS snow, Hope tried. Lily burst into delighted laughter. Close, Hope giggled. That sound still felt like a miracle. Cole leaned against the doorway watching them. 5 children, hungry, growing, trusting him. He swallowed the knot in his throat. We're going into town, he said. Isaac looked up sharply. For what? Work. And if nobody hires you, then I'll haul, chop, mend, dig. I ain't proud. Clara's eyes met his. Be careful. He smiled faintly. You're starting to sound like my ma. She almost smiled back. Town felt colder than the ranch, not just the weather. Eyes followed him again. Whispers returned. The courtroom victory hadn't erased fear, it had stirred it. He found Gideon Hale first, the old rancher who'd spoken up for him. You need hands, Cole asked. Gideon eyed him for a long moment. Prescott won't like it. I ain't asking Prescott, Gideon grunted. Fence line broke on my north pasture. You fix it. I'll pay and feed. Cole exhaled slow relief. Done. It wasn't enough, but it was something. As he turned to leave, he saw Doyle standing across the street. Hat tipped low, smile thin. Still fighting, Whitaker, Doyle called. Cole didn't slow. Still breathing, Doyle's voice sharpened. Judge's audit team rides next week. Snow like this, supplies thin, roof damage from that little accident. Cole turned slowly. You had something to do with that fire, Doyle shrugged. Accidents happen, Cole stepped closer. Careful, Doyle warned lightly. Wouldn't want to look unstable before the audit. That word again, unstable, like caring too much was a weakness. Cole's voice dropped low. You don't scare me. Doyle leaned in just enough to be heard. I don't need to. Cole walked away before his temper betrayed him. Back at the ranch, Isaac was hauling wood twice his size. Ben's hands were red from cold but steady. Clara had patched the barn roof with scrap boards. Lily and Hope were building something crooked and snow-covered that vaguely resembled a horse. Look, Lily shouted as Cole rode up. We made you, the snowman leaned awkwardly, hat made of an old bucket. Isaac snorted. It looks more like biscuit. Ben laughed. Hope clapped. Cole stared at it. It was ridiculous, uneven, brave, just like them. He laughed loud and sudden. The kind of laugh that fogged the air and made the children beam like they'd won something. For a moment, the fear eased. That night, they counted supplies. 3 weeks if stretched thin, 2 if the cold worsened. Isaac leaned back in his chair. They're trying to wait us out. Yeah, make it look like you can't provide. Cole nodded. Ben spoke up softly. What if we help more? You already do, Cole said. Ben shook his head. I mean sell eggs or I can trap rabbits. Clara looked thoughtful. I can sew. Mrs. Paulson might trade flour for mending. Isaac's eyes sharpened. We don't just survive, we show them. Hope tugged on Clara's sleeve. Help, Clara smiled through tired eyes. Yes, little bird, we help. Cole looked around that table. Snow outside, cold creeping through the walls, an audit coming. A judge watching, a rival waiting, and 5 children who refused to break. He leaned forward. All right, he said quietly, then we fight smart. Outside, the wind howled harder. Somewhere in town, Prescott reviewed paperwork by lamplight, convinced time was on his side. But time had a funny way of shifting when people stopped being afraid. And in a small, crooked house buried in snow, fear was slowly being replaced by something far more dangerous. Hope the snow didn't stop. For 3 straight days, the wind carved drifts against the house like it was trying to bury them alive. Inside, the air smelled of wood smoke and determination. Clara stitched by lamplight until her fingers cramped. Ben checked rabbit snares at dawn and dusk, cheeks red and raw from cold. Lily gathered eggs like they were gold coins. Isaac worked beside Cole, reinforcing the barn beams with salvaged timber. Hope followed everyone, talking, trying words like they were fragile glass. Cold, wood, stay. Every time she spoke, it felt like a victory no judge could measure. By the fourth morning, Cole loaded a small sack into the wagon, eggs wrapped in straw, 2 rabbits, Clara's mended shirts, Ben's carefully carved wooden whistle. Isaac climbed up beside him. I'm coming. Cole didn't argue this time. Town was tense, snow muffled sound but not suspicion. Mrs. Paulson stepped out from her store when she saw them. You're brave coming in weather like this. Brave or desperate, Isaac muttered. She heard him, her eyes softened. I'll take the eggs and the shirts, she paused, and the whistle. Ben's face lit up. Really, my nephew needs something to blow that ain't his mouth. Even Isaac cracked a smirk. It wasn't much. But the flower she traded felt heavy in Cole's hands. Across the street, Doyle watched again. This time he didn't smile. He looked annoyed. That was something. On their way out of town, they saw a wagon stuck in a drift near the ridge road. A woman struggled with the reins while a small boy cried in the back. Isaac didn't hesitate. He jumped down. Cole followed. They pushed, pulled, shoved until the wheels broke free. The woman's eyes filled with relief. Thank you, she breathed. Judge's clerk sent me out to deliver papers, and I nearly froze out here. Cole stilled. What papers? She rummaged through her satchel. Audit notices, yours included. Isaac glanced at him. The woman hesitated, then leaned closer. They're coming early, 2 days. Not next week, 2 days. Prescott had accelerated. Cole felt the clock slam down hard. Back at the ranch, Clara read the notice aloud. Inspection of structure, provisions, safety, and moral suitability. Moral suitability, Isaac scoffed. What does that even mean? It means they'll look for anything, Clara said quietly. Hope tugged Cole's coat. Bad man, maybe, he admitted. Lily crossed her arms. Then we make it so good they choke on it. Ben blinked. Choke, figure of speech, Clara said gently. They moved fast. Isaac repaired the last stretch of fence. Ben stacked firewood neatly by height. Clara scrubbed floors until her knuckles bled. Lily organized the loft. Hope followed behind, repeating, clean, clean. Cole fixed the shutter that had hung crooked for years. Not because it mattered to him, but because it would matter to them. That night, exhaustion hit hard. They sat around the table sharing the last of the stew. Isaac looked at Cole. If they say it ain't enough, Cole didn't lie. Then we fight again, Ben swallowed. What if they take us separate this time? The question landed heavy. Clara reached for his hand. They won't. But what if they won't? Isaac cut in firmly, though his eyes flickered. Hope crawled into Cole's lap. Stay, she whispered. He wrapped his arms around her small body. I'm not going anywhere. Outside, the snow finally stopped. The sky cleared, stars sharp as broken glass. 2 days. That was all Prescott needed, or all he thought he needed. Inside the crooked house, 5 children slept close together. Cole sat by the fire long after it burned low. He stared at the door, listened to the wind, waited. Because audits weren't the only way men like Prescott broke families. Sometimes they broke them with one quiet, well-timed blow, and somewhere beyond the dark ridge, hoofbeats echoed faintly in the night. The inspectors arrived at noon. 2 men in dark coats, one thin and sharp-eyed with a leather ledger tucked under his arm, the other broader, quiet, the kind of man who noticed everything and said little. A third rider waited at the gate, Doyle. He didn't bother hiding the satisfaction on his face. Cole met them outside. "You're early." "Efficiency is important," the thin man replied crisply. "I'm Mr. Crowley, this is Mr. Denton. We represent the county." Isaac stood just behind Cole. Clara had Hope's hand. Ben held Biscuit close. Lily clutched Charlotte so tight the doll's ribbon had twisted sideways. Crowley stepped forward without invitation. "We'll begin with structural inspection." They moved through the house like men examining livestock. Crowley tapped beams with his knuckles, measured distances, checked window seals. Denton crouched by the stove, inspecting ash buildup. Clara stood straight back the entire time. Hope whispered quietly, "Bad men." Crowley turned sharply. "What was that?" "Nothing," Clara said evenly. The loft came next. Beds neatly made, blankets folded. Lily's careful organization almost military. Crowley scribbled something. Ben's hands trembled slightly. Cole noticed. He placed a steady hand on the boy's shoulder. Denton paused beside the woodpile outside. "You've stockpiled well for current snowfall," he muttered. Crowley frowned slightly. They moved to the barn, charred beams still visible. Crowley arched a brow. "This was damaged recently." "Contained," Cole answered evenly. "Repaired, cause, accident." Doyle shifted in the saddle but said nothing. Crowley crouched by the feed trough. "Supplies are limited. For winter," Cole asked. "For 5 children. We're managing." Crowley's pen scratched again. They returned to the house. "Now," Crowley said, "we assess moral environment." Isaac's jaw tightened. "What does that mean?" Lily asked boldly. Crowley ignored her. "Miss Clara, do you perform domestic duties?" "Yes, sir." "Under coercion?" "No, sir." "Do you feel burdened?" Clara's eyes flicked briefly to Cole. Then back. "I feel needed." Crowley paused. "And you, Isaac, do you resent your guardian?" Isaac didn't blink. "No." "Do you work?" "Yes." "For compensation, for family." That answer made Denton glance up sharply. Crowley pressed on. "Benjamin, do you fear discipline in this house?" Ben swallowed. Cole felt the tension spike. Ben looked at Biscuit, then at Cole. "No, sir." Crowley tilted his head. "Has Mr. Whitaker ever struck you?" Ben's voice shook. "No." Raised his voice. Ben hesitated. "Yes." Cole had yelled once when Isaac climbed the barn roof recklessly. Crowley caught the hesitation. "Yes," he pressed. Ben lifted his chin. "He yelled 'cause I almost fell off the ladder. Not 'cause he was mean." Denton's lips twitched slightly. Crowley frowned. "Miss Lily." Lily stood taller than usual. "Yes." "Do you feel safe?" Lily hugged Charlotte and answered without pause. "Yes." "Why?" "Because when bad men knock, he stands in front." Silence. Crowley's pen stopped moving. Finally, Crowley closed the ledger. "We will deliberate." Doyle dismounted at last. He walked closer, voice low. "You look tired, Whitaker." "I'm not. You should be." Hope stepped forward unexpectedly. She pointed at Doyle. "Bad man." The word landed like a slap. Doyle's smile twitched. "Children say the strangest things." Isaac moved subtly between Doyle and Hope. Crowley cleared his throat. "We'll inform the court within 48 hours." They mounted up, rode off, Doyle last. He tipped his hat mockingly before turning away. Silence swallowed the yard. Clara exhaled first. Ben sagged like someone had cut his strings. Lily burst into nervous laughter. "Did we win?" Isaac stared at the road long after the riders disappeared. "Not yet." Cole looked at the barn. "The fence, the house, everything standing, everything fragile." "We did what we could," he said quietly. That night they didn't talk much. Exhaustion pressed heavy. Hope curled against Clara and whispered, "Safe." Cole lay awake long after the fire burned low. 48 hours, Prescott would twist whatever he could. Crowley's pen, Doyle's whisper, the barn damage, the thin supplies, it would be close, too close. Outside the wind shifted, and sometime deep in the night Biscuit growled. Low warning. Cole sat up instantly. Another sound followed, a faint metallic snap from the direction of the barn. Cole grabbed his rifle. Isaac was already on his feet. They locked eyes. This wasn't inspection anymore. This was sabotage. And this time it was happening in the dark. The metallic snap came again, sharp, deliberate, not the wind, not settling wood. Isaac was already moving. Cole grabbed his coat and rifle, heart pounding so hard it felt like it might wake the whole house. Stay inside, he whispered toward the loft. Clara's silhouette appeared above anyway. We heard it. Lock the door, Cole said firmly. Don't open it for anyone but me. Hope's small voice floated down. Safe, Cole forced a steady tone. Yes, stay safe. He and Isaac slipped into the night. Snow crunched beneath their boots. The moon cast long silver shadows across the ranch. The barn door hung slightly ajar. That wasn't how they left it. Cole raised his hand, signaling Isaac to circle left. They moved slow, silent. Inside the barn, a figure bent near the feed trough, cutting something. Cole stepped forward, rifle steady. Drop it. The figure froze, slowly turned, not Doyle. Not Prescott, a young man no older than 20, eyes wide with panic. He held a knife and a severed strap from the feed sacks. You're stealing feed, Isaac growled. The boy shook his head violently. No, I was told. Told by who? Cole demanded. The boy swallowed hard. Mr. Doyle said you'd taken county grain, that I was helping correct it. Cole's jaw tightened. Correct it by ruining what little we got, the boy's voice cracked. I just needed the money. Snow blew through the open barn door. Isaac stepped closer. Who sent you? The boy hesitated. Fear flickered in his eyes. Prescott's clerk. There it was, clean hands, dirty work. Cole lowered the rifle slightly. What's your name? Thomas. You got family? The question surprised him. Ma, 2 sisters, hungry probably, cold just like them. Cole exhaled slowly. Prescott paid you, Thomas nodded weakly, to cut feed, maybe spook livestock. Burn the place next, Isaac snapped. Thomas looked horrified. No, Cole studied him, not a villain, just desperate. Prescott's favorite kind of weapon. Cole stepped forward and took the knife from his hand. You go back, he said quietly. You tell Doyle you couldn't find anything to sabotage. Thomas blinked. You're letting me. I'm not turning you in, Cole interrupted. But if you come back here again, you won't like how it ends. Thomas nodded rapidly. Snow clung to his lashes. Thank you, he whispered. Cole didn't answer. He watched the boy disappear into the trees. Isaac stared at him. You should have dragged him to the sheriff. And what then? Isaac hesitated. He's not the one pulling strings, Cole continued. He's just scared, so we just let it go. No, Cole stepped toward the feed trough, cut straps, loose grain spilling. Now we know how he's playing. Isaac's jaw worked. He's trying to make it look like we can't manage supplies. Exactly. Inside the house, Clara waited at the door. What happened? Cole stepped inside, shaking snow from his coat. Nothing we can't handle. Ben descended halfway down the ladder. Was it wolves? Isaac snorted softly. Worse. Hope climbed into Cole's arms immediately. Safe? Yes, he murmured. She pressed her cheek against his chest and repeated softly, safe. But Cole knew something now. Prescott wasn't waiting on the audit. He was actively building failure. If feed ran low, if cattle starved, if supplies dwindled, Crowley's report would read like prophecy. And Prescott would smile. Isaac leaned against the wall. He won't stop. No, Clara's voice was steady. Then neither do we. Lily raised her doll like a tiny general. Charlotte says we fight back. Ben nodded slowly. We gather proof. Cole looked at him. Proof. Of what they're doing. Silence. It wasn't a child's idea. It was strategy. Isaac's eyes sharpened. If we catch them trying again, we show the sheriff, Clara finished. Hope lifted her head. Bad man lose. Cole stared at the 5 of them. They weren't just surviving. They were thinking, planning, growing stronger under pressure. A slow smile tugged at his mouth. All right, he said quietly. Then we set the trap. Outside, the wind carried snow across the fields again. Somewhere in town, Prescott believed his quiet sabotage would pass unseen. But in a small, crooked house on the edge of winter, the hunted had just decided to hunt back. The trap wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, it was patience. For 3 days, Cole acted tired in town, deliberately. He mentioned feed running low within earshot of the right people. He sighed a little too heavily when buying salt. Isaac muttered just loud enough near the stable that we might not make it through February. Doyle heard it. Of course he did. By the 4th night, the snow had crusted hard on the ground, perfect for catching tracks. Cole left the barn door slightly loose, not wide, just enough. He scattered a thin layer of loose grain near the trough, and he waited. They didn't tell Hope or Lily, but Clara and Ben knew, Isaac knew. They sat in darkness long after the fire burned low. Biscuit lay alert at the door, ears twitching. The snap came again, metal against wood. Isaac's eyes flashed in the dark. Cole nodded once. They slipped outside silently, two figures this time. Not Thomas, older, more confident, one crouched by the trough, the other near the stall gate. Now, Cole whispered, lantern light flared. Isaac stepped out with the rifle leveled. Don't move. The men froze, one bolted toward the fence. Isaac moved fast, cutting him off before he cleared the gate. The other raised his hand slowly. Well now, the man said calmly, this looks like a misunderstanding. Cole stepped closer. It was Prescott's foreman from the mine. The one known for keeping boys underground past dusk. Misunderstanding, Cole said coldly. You left your barn unsecured, and you brought a blade. The foreman's smile thinned. We were sent to inspect, Isaac snapped. At midnight, the second man tried to pull away. Isaac shoved him back hard, boots slid on ice. Clara's voice rang from the porch. Sheriff's on his way. The foreman's face shifted. How would you know that? Because Clara had ridden to town that afternoon quietly and told Dawson what they suspected. Because they weren't just reacting anymore. They were thinking ahead. Hoofbeats approached fast. Sheriff Dawson rode into the yard, breath fogging hard. What's this? Cole stepped aside so he could see the cut feed sacks, the tools the men caught mid-sabotage. Dawson's eyes darkened. Prescott send you? He asked flatly. The foreman hesitated. That was enough. Dawson dismounted slowly. You boys just made my life interesting. He bound their hands without ceremony. You're making a mistake, the foreman warned quietly. Dawson leaned close. No. I think I've been making one for 6 years. The men were hauled off before dawn. The ranch stood quiet again. Isaac exhaled slowly. We got them. Not yet, Cole said. This ties back, Clara added softly. Yes, Cole nodded. Now it does. Inside, Lily whispered excitedly to Hope. Bad men caught, Hope grinned sleepily. Bad man lose. Ben sat at the table, shaking but smiling. We did it, he murmured, almost disbelieving. Cole crouched in front of him. You did it. Ben blinked. Me? You suggested proof. Ben's chest rose a little taller. Isaac looked at Cole. Prescott won't like this. No, Cole agreed. And that makes him dangerous. As dawn broke, word traveled through town faster than wildfire. Prescott's men caught sabotaging a family under audit. Sheriff Dawson involved. Witnesses, evidence. By midday, Gideon Hale rode up to the ranch. You made noise, he said gruffly. Wasn't my plan, Cole replied. Doesn't matter, folks are talking. About what? About a judge who sends men in the night. Silence settled. Gideon tipped his hat. Town don't like being lied to, he rode off. Cole stood watching the road long after he disappeared. Inside, Clara was teaching Hope how to say strong. SSS strong, Hope tried. Isaac laughed softly. Ben carved another whistle. Lily lined Charlotte up beside Biscuit like they were sentries guarding the house. Cole leaned against the doorframe. Prescott had made a mistake. He'd gone from quiet manipulation to visible attack. And people had seen it. That was the crack. But cracks in powerful men didn't collapse overnight. They split slow, under pressure. And Prescott, he wasn't the kind to accept humiliation quietly. As the sun dipped behind the ridge, Cole spotted a rider at the far end of the field. Alone, still watching, not Doyle, not the foreman, the judge himself, Marshal Prescott. He didn't approach, didn't wave. Just sat tall in the saddle, staring at the crooked house that refused to fall. Then he turned his horse and rode away without a word. Isaac stepped up beside Cole. That look didn't mean surrender. No, Cole said quietly. It meant escalation. And somewhere deep in his chest, he knew the next move wouldn't be sabotage, it would be personal. Prescott didn't send men the next night, or the night after that. That was worse. Silence from a powerful enemy was never peace, it was preparation. 3 days passed, snow hardened into ice. The sky turned sharp and painfully blue. The ranch stood quiet, almost too quiet. Then the letter came. Not delivered by the sheriff, not handed over in public. It was nailed to the barn door sometime before dawn. Isaac found it first. He ripped it down and brought it inside, face pale. Cole read it once, then again. Then felt the blood drain from his body. Notice of claim dispute land ownership under review due to incomplete inheritance record from prior holder. Until resolved, property access may be restricted. Clara read over his shoulder. They're challenging your deed. Cole nodded slowly. The ranch hadn't been bought in some grand transaction. He'd taken it over years ago after the old trapper who owned it died with no heirs. The paperwork had been thin, legal but thin. Prescott owned the county clerk. Thin paperwork was a weapon. Isaac's hands curled into fists. He's trying to take the land. Yes, and without land, we fail the audit, Clara finished. Ben swallowed hard. They'll say we don't have a stable home. Hope tugged on Cole's coat. Stay, Cole crouched, holding her small shoulders gently. I'm not going anywhere. But the truth was colder than the snow outside. If Prescott revoked the deed, even temporarily, Cole and the children would be labeled squatters, and squatters didn't win custody battles. By noon, Cole rode into town, not to plead, not to beg, to confront. Prescott stood outside the courthouse steps as if expecting him. Well, the judge said smoothly, land disputes are common in these territories. You've known about that deed for years. Prescott adjusted his gloves calmly. Yes. But circumstances change. You mean I embarrassed you? Prescott's eyes flickered, not with anger, with calculation. You mistake yourself for significant, Mr. Whitaker. Then why are you fighting so hard? That landed. A beat of silence. Prescott stepped down one stair. You've disrupted order, encouraged defiance, made others question authority. They're questioning corruption. Prescott's smile thinned. You think this is about 5 children, he said quietly. This is about precedent. Cole's jaw tightened. Precedent. If a single rancher can defy county authority successfully, others will attempt the same. There it was. It was never about Isaac or the mine or the audit. It was about control. Prescott stepped closer. You will lose this land. Maybe. And when you do, Prescott continued softly, I will not need to remove the children. You will fail them on your own. The words were meant to cut, to burrow deep. Cole held his ground. You underestimate them. Prescott arched a brow. Children, family. For the first time, Prescott's expression shifted just slightly. Not understanding, he didn't grasp that kind of bond. He stepped back. You have 3 days to present documentation validating your ownership. Or the property reverts to county holding pending review. Prescott turned without another word. Cole stood there long after he left. 3 days, again back at the ranch. Clara read the notice carefully. There has to be something, she said, some proof. The trapper, Ben murmured. Didn't he write letters? Cole froze. He remembered. Old journals buried in a trunk in the loft. That night they tore the house apart. Isaac climbed into the rafters. Ben dug through old crates. Lily held the lantern steady. Hope sat in the middle of the floor whispering, find. Find, and then Ben shouted, I got something. A leather-bound journal, yellowed pages, inside a handwritten note, signed by the trapper, stating clearly that the land would pass to Cole Whitaker for loyalty and labor, not formal. But dated, signed, witnessed by Gideon Hale. Isaac's eyes lit up. Gideon testified in court. Clara smiled through tears. He'll testify again. Hope clapped. Found. Cole stared at the page like it was gold. Prescott had expected him unprepared, alone, ignorant. Instead, he had 5 relentless allies. Cole closed the journal carefully. We're not done, he said quietly. Isaac stepped closer. No, Clara's voice steadied. We're just getting started. Outside, the wind howled down from the ridge. Somewhere in town, Prescott likely felt certain he had cornered them, but cornered animals fought hardest. And Prescott. He had just cornered a family that had already survived far worse than him. They rode into town at first light, all of them, Cole in front, Isaac beside him, Clara holding Hope close against the cold. Ben with the journal tucked tight under his coat like it was a living thing. Lily insisted Charlotte come too for luck. The courthouse steps felt less towering this time, still intimidating but not untouchable. Gideon Hale was already waiting. I had a feeling, the old rancher muttered when he saw the journal in Ben's hands. You remember signing? Cole asked. Gideon snorted. I remember that old fool saying you worked harder than any man he'd seen. Said you earned it. Inside, Prescott sat at his desk reviewing papers. He didn't look surprised to see them, but his gaze sharpened when Ben placed the journal on the desk. Cole opened it slowly, showed the page. Gideon stepped forward. That's my signature, he said gruffly. Witnessed it myself. Prescott's fingers paused on the paper. He scanned it carefully. Informal, he said. Valid, Gideon countered. Unfiled. Not illegal. Silence stretched between them. Isaac stood tall. Clara didn't blink. Hope whispered softly, stay. Prescott leaned back in his chair. You came prepared. Yes. You think this ends it? Cole met his gaze steadily. I think you underestimated us. Prescott tapped the desk once, twice, then he stood. For now, he said smoothly, the claim dispute is suspended, not erased, but it was a retreat, small, calculated, still a retreat. Outside, Lily burst into laughter. We won. Ben let out a shaky breath that turned into something like a sob and a laugh mixed together. Isaac didn't smile, not yet. Suspended means he's waiting, Isaac muttered. Cole nodded. Yes, Clara looked back at the courthouse doors. He's running out of quiet moves. That was true. Prescott had tried audit, sabotage, land dispute. Each time they'd answered, not alone, together, and people were watching now. That afternoon, word spread. Prescott's land challenge failed. Sheriff Dawson stopped by the ranch before dusk. Town's shifting, he said quietly. Folks are talking, not whispering. About what? Ben asked. About power, Dawson replied. About who gets to decide things. Hope tugged on Isaac's sleeve. Strong, Isaac looked down at her. You are, she grinned. Later that night, as the children slept, Cole sat alone outside under the cold stars. He knew Prescott wasn't finished. Men like that didn't stop because of paperwork. They stopped when they lost influence, when the town no longer feared them, and that was happening slowly. Bootsteps crunched behind him. Isaac sat beside him without a word. You think he'll come again? Isaac asked quietly. Yes. You ready? Cole stared at the dark ridge. I am now. Isaac glanced toward the house where Clara hummed softly to Hope, where Ben's breathing had steadied, where Lily whispered stories to Charlotte. You know, Isaac said slowly, when you first asked how much for all five, I thought you were lying. Cole huffed softly. Yeah, I thought you'd disappear, Cole swallowed. I almost did once. Isaac studied him. But you didn't this time. No, silence again. Then Isaac did something unexpected. He leaned his shoulder lightly against Cole's, not a hug, not a child clinging, just steady. Cole felt it deep in his chest. Whatever came next, they weren't standing on shaky ground anymore. They were rooted. And Prescott, for the first time in a long time, wasn't the only one holding power in Copper Ridge. But far off beyond the ridge, a lantern flickered in the window of Prescott's office late into the night. Because men who lose quietly often plan loudly. The next move didn't come from Prescott's office, it came from the mine. 3 days after the land dispute was suspended, a wagon rolled into Copper Ridge carrying something no one expected. A body, not dead but close, 14-year-old boy. Coal dust ground into his skin like it belonged there. Arm bent wrong, lips blue from cold, they laid him on a table in the general store. Cave in, someone muttered. Ventilation failed. Foreman said keep digging. Sheriff Dawson arrived fast. Prescott did not. Cole stood at the edge of the crowd, Isaac beside him. The boy's chest rose shallowly. Clara's fingers tightened around Hope's hand. Ben's face went pale. Lily clutched Charlotte. This is what he wanted you for, Isaac whispered. Cole nodded once. Gideon Hale stepped forward, voice rough with anger. That's the third this winter. Murmurs rippled through the store. Third, people had whispered before, now they were counting. Miss Alina Price, the school teacher, knelt beside the injured boy. He should be in school, she whispered fiercely. Sheriff Dawson stood slowly. He needs a doctor in Cheyenne. In the mine, someone asked. Dawson's jaw tightened. I'll be speaking to Prescott. That night, town didn't quiet like usual. Lanterns stayed lit, conversations grew louder, fear was shifting into anger. At the ranch, the children felt it too. Isaac paced. They'll blame the cave-in on weather. They always do, Clara said softly. But this time people saw him, Ben added, up close. Hope whispered hurt. Cole crouched in front of them. You remember why Prescott wanted Isaac? All five nodded. For control, Clara said. For labor, Isaac muttered. For power, Ben added quietly. Cole looked at them one by one. And what happens when people stop being afraid? Lily's eyes sparkled. They get loud. That night, Sheriff Dawson knocked again, not cautious this time, determined. I'm filing a report, he said bluntly. Unsafe conditions, labor violations. Isaac's eyes widened. Can he stop you? Ben asked. He'll try. Clara stepped forward. We can testify, Dawson hesitated. Your children, we're witnesses, Isaac corrected. Silence hung heavy. Dawson looked at Cole. This won't just be about custody anymore. I know, it'll get ugly. It already has, the sheriff nodded once. I'll need statements, Clara didn't blink. You'll have them. After he left, the house felt charged, not scared, not exactly. Ready, Isaac stood near the fire. If we do this, there's no going back. Cole looked at him steadily. There wasn't the moment I asked how much. Hope climbed into Isaac's lap. Strong, she repeated proudly. He laughed softly. Yeah, little bird. The next morning, town gathered outside the courthouse again, not for an audit. Not for custody, for accountability. Prescott arrived late, immaculate as always, controlled. But the murmurs didn't die when he stepped onto the stairs, they grew. Sheriff Dawson stood beside him this time, not below, beside. Investigation into mine safety and child labor practices begins today, Dawson announced. Prescott's jaw tightened. You're overstepping. No, Dawson replied calmly, I'm stepping up. A ripple of approval moved through the crowd. Cole stood at the back with the children. Isaac watched Prescott carefully. The judge's eyes found them cold, measured, but for the first time uncertain. Prescott raised his voice. These accusations are emotional. Miss Aliner stepped forward. So is burying children. Silence, thick, heavy. Prescott's mask slipped just slightly. The crowd saw it, and that was dangerous, very dangerous. Because power wasn't just about control, it was about perception. And Prescott's perception was cracking. Isaac exhaled slowly. He's losing them, Cole nodded. Yes, but losing public control made men like Prescott unpredictable, desperate, and desperate men didn't fall quietly, they lashed. As the crowd pressed closer to the courthouse steps, Prescott turned and disappeared inside without another word. The doors slammed shut behind him. Lily squeezed Clara's hand. Is it over? Clara shook her head softly. No, Ben stared at the closed doors. It's beginning. Cole watched the building like it might erupt. Prescott had lost quiet authority, lost silent sabotage, lost land leverage. Now he was cornered, and cornered men burn things down. Whether it's barns or entire towns, the air felt different now, charged, waiting. And somewhere inside that courthouse, Marshal Prescott was deciding just how far he was willing to go. Prescott didn't come out of the courthouse that day. Not while the crowd waited, not while Dawson stood firm. Not while the injured mine boy was loaded into a wagon bound for Cheyenne. He waited. And that waiting felt heavier than any threat he'd made before. By nightfall, the town had thinned. Lanterns flickered out one by one, but something had changed. People had spoken aloud, and once words leave mouths, they don't crawl back in easily. At the ranch, Cole didn't relax. He reinforced the barn latch again, checked the windows twice. Isaac noticed. You think he's going to hit back tonight? I think, Cole said quietly, he's deciding how loud he wants it. Inside, Clara tucked Hope into bed. Ben lay staring at the rafters. Lily whispered to Charlotte about judges who turn into frogs when they lie. Hope giggled softly at that. The sound felt precious, too precious. Near midnight, hoofbeats pounded hard down the ridge road, not quiet, not sneaking, fast. Desperate, Cole stepped outside before the rider even reached the gate. Sheriff Dawson, hat gone, breathing hard. They've locked the mine gates, he said without dismounting. Who? Prescott, shut it down, fired half the men. Says safety complaints make operations unsustainable. Isaac stepped forward. He's punishing them. Yes, Clara's voice trembled. They'll blame you. They already do, Cole replied. Dawson shook his head. No. They're blaming him. Silence. The wind cut through the yard. Men are angry, Dawson continued. Real angry. Anger's dangerous, Cole said. Not as dangerous as desperation. The sheriff looked at the house. At you, Cole didn't respond. He didn't need to. Prescott had escalated. He'd chosen spectacle. Shutting down the mine meant men without wages, families without food. It was a gamble. Blame the sheriff. Blame the town. Blame the man who started asking questions. Isaac's jaw clenched. He's trying to make them hate us. Yes, Cole said. And will they? Ben asked softly from the doorway. Cole turned toward him. I don't know. The next morning answered that question. Men gathered in town. Not quietly, not orderly, voices raised, fists clenched, but they weren't aimed at Cole, they were aimed at the courthouse. You shut us down to protect yourself, someone shouted. We got kids too, Prescott stepped out eventually. Controlled, cold. This town will not be held hostage by emotional hysteria, he declared loudly. but the words fell flat, too rehearsed, too hollow. Gideon Hale stepped forward. My nephew's arm is crushed because you cut corners. Miss Aliner joined him. My students are coughing coal dust. Sheriff Dawson stood at the base of the steps. The investigation proceeds. Prescott's composure cracked. Investigation. Into what? My livelihood, my authority. Into truth, Dawson answered calmly. A murmur rose behind the sheriff. Agreement, support. Prescott looked at the crowd. Then his eyes landed on Cole, standing at the edge, not shouting, not posturing. Just there, present, unmoved. The judge understood then. This wasn't about one rancher anymore. It was about momentum, about people realizing power could be questioned. And that terrified him. Prescott's voice lowered. You think this ends well? He asked Cole directly. Cole met his gaze. It already did. A long pause. Then Prescott turned sharply and disappeared inside again, not triumphant, not composed, retreating. That evening, the town held a meeting at the church hall. For the first time in years, Prescott wasn't the one speaking. Sheriff Dawson laid out findings: unsafe beams, unpaid wages, underage labor. Miss Aliner read testimonies. Gideon backed them. Even Thomas, the young man who tried to sabotage the ranch, stood up trembling and confessed who sent him. Gasps filled the hall, names spoken aloud: Doyle's, the foreman's, the clerk's, Prescott's. Clara squeezed Hope's hand. Ben held biscuit close. Isaac stood tall. Lily whispered, he's shrinking. And she was right. Power that thrived in shadow does not survive daylight. By night's end, a petition was drafted. Formal request for state review for removal of Prescott from judicial authority pending investigation. Cole didn't sign first, he signed last, because this wasn't his fight anymore. It belonged to the town. Outside the church, snow began falling again. Soft, quiet, clean. Isaac exhaled long and slow. Did we just change something? Cole looked at him. No, he said quietly. You did. Back at the ranch, Hope crawled into his lap before bed. Stay, she whispered again. He smiled softly. I'm not going anywhere. But deep in his chest, he knew one thing clearly: Prescott was losing. And men who lose power either disappear quietly or make one final, dangerous move. And somewhere beyond the ridge, a single lantern still burned in Prescott's office long past midnight. The lantern in Prescott's office burned all night. By morning it was out, so was he. Word spread before breakfast. Prescott had left town before dawn. No speech, no announcement, no defense, just gone. Doyle too, the clerk who'd filed the land dispute, gone. The foreman already in custody. Silence followed their absence like a stunned echo. Sheriff Dawson rode out to the courthouse personally. Official notice posted, he told the crowd gathering by noon. State review accepted. Prescott removed pending investigation. Removed. The word felt unreal. Gideon Hale let out a rough laugh that sounded half like disbelief. Miss Aliner closed her eyes and whispered, finally. Cole stood back from the crowd with the children. Isaac didn't blink. Clara's shoulders slowly relaxed like she'd been bracing for months. Ben squeezed Biscuit so tight the dog huffed in protest. Lily burst into loud, unrestrained laughter. Charlotte says he ran, Hope clapped. Bad man gone, but Cole didn't smile yet. He'd seen men like Prescott before. Pride didn't disappear quietly. Where'd he go? Isaac asked. Dawson overheard. West, maybe Cheyenne. Maybe farther. And if he comes back, Ben asked softly. Dawson met Cole's eyes. Then he won't come back as a judge. That mattered. Power stripped, authority questioned, influence cracked. Prescott hadn't just lost an argument. He'd lost his grip. That evening the town gathered again, but this time no anger, no fear, just relief. The mine would reopen under new oversight, safety enforced, wages corrected. The injured boy in Cheyenne, stable, recovering. Gideon approached Cole quietly. You started something. Cole shook his head. No, you did, Gideon insisted. You just didn't start it loud. Clara stepped closer. It wasn't loud, she said softly. It was steady. Isaac looked out over the crowd. They were scared. And, Cole asked, they just needed someone not to be. That landed deep. Later, back at the ranch, snow fell gently, no tension in it, no threat. Just winter being winter. The barn stood repaired, the fence solid, the deed secure. The audit passed. Crowley's final report had read, household stable, children well cared for, no evidence of neglect, simple words hard-earned. Inside, Lily performed a dramatic retelling of the courtroom scream for the 100th time. Ben corrected her version loudly. Clara laughed openly this time. Hope tried to say victory and ended up with Vic T. Isaac leaned back in his chair, finally at ease. Cole watched them all quietly, 5 children, no longer just surviving, growing, healing, belonging. Isaac caught him staring. What? Cole shook his head softly. I almost walked away once. A long time ago. Isaac didn't need details. But you didn't this time, he said. No. Hope climbed into Cole's lap. Stay. He kissed the top of her head. I'm staying. Outside, the ridge was empty, no silhouettes, no watchers. No lantern burning in some office plotting the next move. Just stars, clear and steady. Prescott had lost. The town had shifted. And a crooked little ranch on the edge of winter had become something far stronger than land or law. It had become home, and for the first time since he'd buried that coffee tin and thought he deserved loneliness, Cole Whitaker didn't feel alone at all. Spring came slow, not in a rush of green but in stubborn patches. Snow melted in uneven strips across the fields, mud replaced frost, fence posts leaned a little softer in the thaw, the ranch breathed again, so did the children. Hope talked in full sentences, now short, crooked ones, but sentences all the same. Biscuit stole bread. Isaac snores loud. Lily sings bad. Lily protested dramatically every time. Clara laughed more easily. Ben walked straighter. Isaac no longer watched the road behind them every second of the day. That was the biggest change of all. The mine reopened under state oversight, safer beams, fewer hours. No boys underground without age papers. Sheriff Dawson kept his badge, and for the first time in years, Copper Ridge didn't feel owned. One afternoon, as Cole repaired a fence post, Isaac leaned against it. You think he'll ever come back? He asked. Cole didn't pretend not to understand who. Men like him, he said thoughtfully, they don't come back to places that saw them fall. Isaac nodded slowly. Good. Clara walked up with a folded paper in her hand. What's that? Cole asked. School notice, she said softly. Miss Aliner says Ben and Lily can start in the fall. Ben froze. School? Yes, Clara said gently. Real school. Ben's face twisted, half fear, half excitement. Isaac smirked. Guess you better stop talking to chickens all day. Ben shoved him lightly. Lily twirled around the yard. Charlotte's going too, Hope clapped wildly. School? Cole leaned back against the fence post and let the sound wash over him. It felt normal, and that almost scared him, because normal had never lasted long in his life. That evening, Gideon rode up with a small wooden sign, hand-carved. He handed it to Cole without a word. Cole turned it over. The letters were rough but strong. Whitaker Ranch. Isaac stared at it. Clara pressed her fingers to her mouth. Ben grinned wide. Lily gasped. Hope whispered, Ours. Cole swallowed hard. He walked to the front of the house and nailed the sign beside the door. Each hammer strike echoed steady and sure. Isaac stepped up beside him when it was done. You gonna keep it that name? He asked quietly. Cole glanced at the 5 of them. Then back at the sign. No, he took the hammer again, and beneath it slowly he carved 5 smaller lines, not names, just marks, one for each of them. Then he stepped back. Isaac smiled, really smiled. Clara rested her head briefly against Cole's arm. Ben laughed out loud. Lily clapped again. Hope wrapped her arms around his leg and squeezed. Family, she said clearly, not broken, not fragile, clear, strong. Cole crouched down and held her tight. Yeah, he whispered, family. The sun dipped behind the ridge, warm instead of harsh. No riders in the distance. No smoke, no threats. Just wind in the grass and children arguing about who got to feed Biscuit first. Cole stood there for a long moment watching them run. The boy who once believed promises were lies. The girl who carried the weight of 4 others. The quiet one who shook in corners. The little one who talked to a doll because it was safer than people. The baby who lost her voice. All of them laughing now, healing, rooted. He thought about that muddy battlefield years ago. The hand he hadn't taken, the guilt that followed him home. Maybe he couldn't fix that moment, but this one he'd gotten right. Isaac called out across the yard. Hey, Cole looked up. You still don't know how to make good biscuits. Lily burst into laughter. Clara shook her head. Ben joined in. Even Hope giggled loudly. Cole laughed big and loud and free. Keep laughing, he called back. You're all learning to cook next. Groans filled the air, and laughter followed. The crooked little house stood firm against the fading light, not perfect, not wealthy, but strong. And Cole Whitaker, once a man who thought he deserved solitude, stood in the middle of it all, surrounded by noise and chaos and love. And for the first time in his life, he didn't feel like he was fighting anymore. He felt like he was home. Summer didn't ask permission, it arrived loud. Grass pushed up thick and green where snow once buried the fields, the fence line held, the barn stood solid, the repaired beams didn't creak the way they used to. Whitaker Ranch, the sign weathered quickly in the sun, but it stood, so did they. Ben started school first. He nearly turned around twice before reaching the door. Isaac walked him halfway, pretending it was just because he had other business in town. When the school bell rang, Ben flinched instinctively. Clara squeezed his hand. "It's not a mine," she whispered gently. Ben swallowed. "I know." At midday, he came running back, grinning wide. "They got books," he breathed. "Real ones." Lily started a week later and tried to organize the classroom within 10 minutes. Hope practiced letters in the dirt with Clara each afternoon. She wrote her name crooked and proud, Hope, Hope. The word meant more than any of them could fully explain. One evening, Sheriff Dawson rode up slow and easy. "No trouble," he said before anyone could ask. Isaac smirked. "Boring," Dawson laughed. "Prescott's hearing's been finalized. Stripped of judicial seat, charges pending." Cole nodded once. "That's done then, as done as things get." Dawson tipped his hat toward the house. "You built something strong out here." Cole looked at the yard where Lily and Ben were chasing Biscuit, where Clara was reading aloud under the tree, where Hope sat in the grass braiding wildflowers badly into her hair, where Isaac leaned against the barn pretending not to smile. "I didn't build it alone," Cole said quietly. Dawson studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Guess that's the point." After he left, the sun dipped low. Fireflies flickered across the pasture like tiny floating lanterns. The children gathered around the porch steps. Isaac nudged Cole lightly. "You ever regret it?" "Regret what?" asking. Cole didn't answer right away. He watched Hope trying to balance on the fence rail. Watched Clara steady her without even looking up from her book. Watched Ben laugh without fear. Watched Lily narrate some wild story to Charlotte. He shook his head slowly. "No," Isaac leaned back. "I didn't think you'd come back. I know, but you did." "Yeah." A quiet settled in, not heavy, not tense, just peaceful. Hope toddled over and climbed into Cole's lap without asking. She rested her head against his chest and sighed. "Stay," she murmured. He wrapped his arms around her automatically. "I'm staying." Isaac looked out across the land. "You know what the best part is?" "What?" "We don't look behind us anymore." Cole followed his gaze. The ridge stood empty, no riders, no lanterns, no threats, just open sky. Clara closed her book and joined them. "We're not waiting for something bad," she said softly. Ben flopped down beside her. "We're just living." Lily raised Charlotte dramatically. "Long live Whitaker Ranch." Everyone groaned and laughed at the same time, even Isaac, even Cole. And in that laughter there was no fear hiding beneath it, no tension waiting to snap. Just warmth. Years from now, maybe storms would come again, maybe new threats. Life never promised smooth roads, but this moment was earned. Cole leaned back against the porch post, children piled around him in various states of argument and giggles. He thought about that dusty street the day he asked the question that changed everything. How much for all five? He hadn't known the cost then, now he did. The cost was everything he had, and it had been worth every single coin. The wind moved softly through the tall summer grass. The sign creaked gently on its nail. Whitaker Ranch, 5 marks carved beneath, not perfect, not polished, but permanent. And as the stars began to appear one by one above them, Cole Whitaker closed his eyes for just a second, not in exhaustion, not in worry, but in gratitude. Because sometimes the bravest thing a man can do isn't fight, it's stay.